once again, good evening. To open our show this evening...
He's been the opening act for John Gary, John Davis, Phyllis Diller, Paul Revere and the Raiders, and a host of other big stars.
From Santa Monica, California...
We'd like you to meet Mercer Helms.
Mr. Mercer Helms.
Mercer Helms has spent a lifetime entertaining audiences with his commercial magic. On our Magic Collectors Corner Facebook group, some of Magic's top pros like Levent and Lance Burton had great recollections of Mercer's act. Jeff McBride actually says, "Mercer rocked my world." So we joined Mercer to talk about magic, the legends he's known,
Gwen.
Oh yeah, Jack Gwen. He was a good friend.
and naturally our conversation went to the start of his love for magic.
Magic?
Yeah.
Well, every little kid gets a magic set.
Yeah.
You know, the Gilbert Misto magic set with the, let's see, what was the one where you fold it up and then you unfold it and it's just a paper, like, you know. I did those and I enjoyed it.
Right.
You know, I always liked it.
We talked about his inspirations.
How about this? Who inspired you?
Inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jay Marshall pretty well.
Sure.
Up there. I got to meet a few people. Just about all of them
Yeah.
were working at that time. I ended up being sort of one of them who was working, but not necessarily with them.
Mercer told us about the types of acts that he took with him on the road.
And I think so. You.
I went with 2 acts on the road.
Okay.
A high energy dub act and about a 20-minute comedy act.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And
all the old lines like you've done the dollar bill thing, accidentally you burn a $100 bill, and accidentally you burn the bill instead of the other one. And you say, well, don't fret, sir. You've already had $100 worth of fun. You know, stuff like that. It gets a laugh from an audience. You know.
While you're on the road, you've got to the acts.
Yeah.
I think it was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Is that right? Where Phyllis first saw you.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that began a lifetime working relationship.
Then I went with her to
The Phyllis that we're talking about here is, of course, the legendary Phyllis Diller, with whom Mercer worked into the early 2000s, even after a brief marriage to one of Phyllis's daughters.
But you worked with Phyllis before you met her daughter.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
And
My
you
daughter
worked.
and I married, and it was a terrible mistake for both of us. We just we just weren't right for each other. It lasted 6 or 8 months, you know.
And then you continued to work with Phyllis long after
Oh
that.
yeah, Phyllis. Well, I didn't. I went by and gave her my resignation. She said, "What for?" I said, "Well, she said, "Get out of here. You're not going anywhere." I said, "Well, okay."
That's fine.
In May of 1933, the Empire Room at the Palmer House Hotel in Chicago opened as a supper club. In the next decades, it became one of the most prestigious venues to play as a variety act, as an entertainer.
So you end up working at the Palmer House, in the Empire Room at the Palmer House with Phyllis.
With Phyllis.
Yeah.
Well, there's no backstage at the Palmer House.
Right.
It's just an apron out there.
I've been in there one time, and
Yeah.
you kind of, I guess you would enter from kind of the far side of the room, right, and come to the stage.
Back where the dressing
Yeah.
rooms were stage right, and get way over there and come in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or else I'd sort of sneak in closer and get, you know.
As we spoke, Mercer brought up a subject that I was super excited to hear more about.
The most colorful person at Palmer House is Teacher.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with that, she is a whirlwind dervish, and who just is absolutely. I mean, she ran the entertainment program there at Palmer House, and delightful person. But golly.
What do you remember about
The woman that Mercer refers to as Teacher is named Muriel Abbott. Miss Abbott, or Teacher, as people called her, was first a choreographer, then she took over booking the entertainment at the Empire Room, before eventually becoming one of Hilton Hotel's first female executives. In fact, she booked all the entertainment for all of the Hilton hotels worldwide. It's said that during her time, she booked more entertainment herself than the entire William Morris agency combined. She was responsible for booking the entertainment at the Empire Room up until the room closed in 1976.
So I wrote an article about her, Miss Abbott, who you call
that's
teacher.
It, Teacher Abbott. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And this.
She was a really delightful lady. She Marvin Roy was a good friend of hers.
This is probably what she looked like around the time that you would have been there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But she was just a presence there. You just remember.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. And I met her and we talked, stuff. I didn't have any problems. It was a good room too.
Yeah.
I mean, you could work. I always liked thrust stages, and that was the classic. And so, I was talking to what's his name? One of the guy who did the balloons, John Shirley. I said, John, I think some people can get a glimpse of the gimmick in the zombie I was doing. He said, well, what's the problem? And I said, well, I don't want to expose the trick. He said, oh, bullshit, just do the act and don't worry about it.
Because they're...
I don't know where John's still around or not.
I think you told Scott Wells on his podcast, a friend of yours wrote your music, right? You had that charted by a...
Yeah, by Peter Daniels.
Okay.
Who was a well-known conductor for those sorts of shows all around, especially up in the New York area, and on the Boer circuit, which is wonderful.
You worked a lot of those?
Not a lot, just 2 or 3 Kutchers and a couple of others, I think.
And of course, there were a lot of magic legends that worked there as well.
Oh God, yeah, all of them. Scarney even. Yeah, and they were all over the place. Chicago is a nice big magic town.
Yeah, it sure
and comedy town.
It sure is, and was then.
Yeah.
Well, I know you said how much you enjoyed just the clubs in general. You liked working those rooms just around the country and everything.
Yeah.
One quick thing, I read this in her.
This is marvelous.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Is that all by teacher or something?
It's a fairly large article about her. Here she is when she was young.
Yeah.
Here. And she had a son who you probably wouldn't. There's Marvin.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't have known him, but he was considerably younger. She adopted him much younger. Here's Marvin and Carol on ice.
Yeah,
on
I
ice
remember.
skates.
Carol was an ice skater.
Yeah,
and that's how they met.
Yes,
I think they.
And then there's Ron Urban. Did you know him?
Yeah, Dove Act.
Yeah.
I saw his act and really liked it, and I didn't steal it, but I used I like the birds.
Your act is, I don't know, like maybe one of the first high energy acts high energy Dove acts, I should say. Yeah. At that time, everybody was trying to be Channing Pollock, and they were suave, and
that's why I did it.
And so, you come out and bam, but
it was. Well, for example, I had good music, so I would come out and blow up a balloon more or less in time to music, and take a needle and bang, and the bird would fly up. And this one would come back down to the perch. And that was a good high energy beginning. And the zombie, I would let it pull me clear off the floor while I was looking here, and which would get a laugh, and sometimes a laugh from the magicians.
And that brings us to January of 1976. when Mercer and Phyllis Diller appeared in the final shows at the Empire Room.
Oh, yeah.
That so Francis Marshall wrote up. This is from that last appearance at the Palmer House at the Empire Room.
Remember what it was? I did too.
Well, so you
Was Phyllis with me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You were
I was with her.
with
both
Phyllis,
times.
and this was the last show. This
the
was
last show
the end of that room.
in that room.
Yeah. Francis Marshall kind of laments what a kind of a momentous occasion it is, because all of those greats that played there, and you were the last. You weren't just the last magician. I mean, you were the last act.
The last act.
Yeah.
Francis Marshall writes, "A bit of theatrical history is being enacted. The end of an era is taking place. Currently, Phyllis Diller is being starred in the beautiful Empire Room, and her supporting act is the excellent magician Mercer Helms. This show will close the room." She goes on, "I sat in the splendor of that beautiful dining and dancing hall, and I regretted that this was goodbye. The show was very good, with lots of Phyllis Diller laughs, and Mercer did great with a series of very smooth dove productions, zombie, silk tricks, a rope trick, and the dramatic vanish of all the doves and their cage. He moves gracefully and quickly and keeps the action going throughout. A thorough professional."
Then they sent the hazmat team in.
Mercer Helms was such a gracious host, and it was such a pleasure to talk magic, talk about his career, and his role in some significant moments in magical history.
Well, Mercer, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.